Okay, guys, so we're going to be having a chat today with Caya, who's the founder of Slidebean, about how he migrated his company from your traditional, hey, let's build as fast as possible, to let's build and grow this company profitably. And so he's going to share his experience and some of his pains about how he actually really made that happen. So, okay, Caya, great to chat with you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for having me, Alexander.
Cool. So you started this company, Slidebean, and you've been growing it. You've raised money, but you realized that you needed to actually become profitable in order for you to actually achieve your ultimate goals, right?
Yeah, and it's not necessarily about profitability. It's more about how we realized that the story that we needed to tell was around revenue and the growth of that revenue. So we're a presentation platform, similar to the PowerPoints and the Google Slides of the world. And when we started in 2014, we had this vision, dream of getting to 1 million customers. Or 1 million users at least, and getting everybody to use Slidebean. And so we had a very cheap product. We had a freemium business model, and we're trying to grow around that. But it's really, really hard to scale when you're freemium because your conversion rates are low, your churn is high. If people can just use the free version of your app.
What were your conversion rates when you were building it that way, the previous way, freemium?
Maybe 1% or 2% conversion from sign up to paid. These were very cheap plans. We were charging $5 a month back then, and it was soon enough. The guys from 500 Startups, which is this accelerator we went through, really questioned our pricing and really had us test whether that was something that we could scale with.
How much were you acquiring a user for then?
That was a problem. We would pay maybe $20, $30 for a paid user.
And then 1% would actually pay you.
No. So 20, 30% for a paid user.
So you need still 6 months to cover your CAC, right?
Exactly. On $5 a month, it just takes so long. And again, if the product is freemium, you're getting occasional presenters to use it. Churn is just unsustainable there. But what we realized soon enough was that the only way we could really scale and create a story that not only our investors would buy into, but that would also prove the value of the product was charging for it, making it a premium only product, and then really testing if people are willing to use this, pay for it because it saves them more time, or even they prefer this paid alternative even more expensive than your for almost free PowerPoint. That's how we ended up testing whether the product was worth it.
How did you pick the price? The new price?
we've gone all the way from $79 a month as a base plan. We were there at some point, to what we have now, which is $96 for the year, and we are only doing annual plans now. The problem with presentations, we realized soon enough, was a lot of people don't need presentations on a monthly basis, or maybe they need one or two. And if you have the pressure of a monthly product, it's just too hard a pressure, and then that really affects churn. And then the user that we want is the user that wants to use this product, through the year, or that needs to make a lot of presentations in the month. The other users, the occasional presenters, those are not our ideal customers. We made this decision to sort of keep them out for now so that we can focus on the ones that we really care about.
Yeah, okay. And so how did you define who your new customer was? How did you go about creating an avatar or something and figuring out who you should be targeting?
At the earliest stages, this is back 2015, we obviously marketed to very widely, and try to understand who converted and what is the profile of those converting users. And soon enough, we found that the ideal customer persona was other early stage companies. So we had this interesting startup story where this is the second company that I started. We went through 500 startups, and we were sort of, and we've managed to raise money. And we had this startup story that a lot of other startups could relate to, and we had some experience on what the struggles of these companies are. And by a combination of marketing and whatnot, we discovered that these users were converting, they were using the platform, and they were using Slidebean to create pitch decks for their own startups. And that's what makes up the majority of our user base now. We've probably seen 20,000 plus starter pitch decks built on Slidebean thus far.
Mm. And so, do you find that your ideal so basically what you did is actually you analyzed your data sets to actually figure out who your actual ideal customer was, actually. So this wasn't something you just decided, hey, we're doing startup for startups. Like,
no,
you
not
actually
at all.
figured this out, right?
Very naively at the start, we just tried to cater to everybody.
Yeah.
That's a bad idea, but
Right.
we sent ads to everybody, advertised on presentation software and presentation design, which are very generic keywords and topics.
Yeah.
And then conversion wasn't really good on certain audiences, but when we looked into our users, and we've done this several times, actually go one by one, see the name of the presentations they make. We can't legally look at their slides, but we can look at what they're building, and we discovered that many of them were startups. So we just doubled down on that audience, and we've continued to do that all along.
Okay, so that's a good lesson, is that you actually really need to properly look in and figure out who these people are. And so do you see these people, do you see you evolving into more industries over time, or how are you thinking about that?
Yeah. We've become, and there's still a large market of startups that we haven't catered to yet. So we continue to build on that audience and to increase our reach there. But obviously, and simultaneously start experimenting with new audiences. The second one in line has been marketing agencies and marketing people. Just because our own experience with marketing and the content marketing that we've built, we've created content that they find interesting, and we've drawn some of them as well. Also, a marketing person is somebody who has this combination of appreciating high quality and well-designed slides, don't have time to build them, need to present often because they're pitching to clients and presenting results and that sort of thing. So it fits what we try to do, and it fits the value that our product adds. And we have 20% of our audience is marketings or marketing consultants. So that's our second in line audience, and we obviously still work on understanding how to bring more of those type of users.
So, what were some of the most painful parts of, I guess, changing like the path of your company into the direction that you're going now?
Yeah, I think that by far it was this realization of, guys, if we don't start charging for this product now and make it premium, we'll go out of business, because we don't have the millions of users that we need to raise a follow-on round. So we need to make money, and we need to make money now. So we sort of bet on that with the round that we raised, right? We bet on the millions of users and that wide audience, but it didn't work out. So soon enough, and luckily on time, we realized this and then pivoted the company into an operation that we could pay for ourselves and still invest a good amount of money on R&D and on growth.
I mean, were there changes in your team structure?
Not necessarily. More in how we thought about things and how we thought about scaling. When we had money in the bank, we had just raised our round. We scaled the team drastically. We scaled our growth marketing our growth budget drastically, and started try to convert users around that. Some stuff worked, some stuff didn't. For example, many campaigns on the marketing end are sort of experimental. We see some results, but we're not completely sure if they're working, and they're sort of in that middle ground. And we're like, okay, so let's extend this campaign one other month, see if it yields results. When you're moving to profitability, you really can't afford to do that. So you have to really pick the campaigns that are working, stop the other ones, and be much more careful with your experiments. That's the overall vision change.
This is interesting. So, what did you find works and hasn't worked with your campaigns? Like, what were your good learnings?
Sorry,
you
broke up.
You're talking about campaigns. So what did you find were the things that worked well and actually didn't work terribly? Because it sounds like you tested a lot of stuff.
Yeah. We've gone all the way. Podcast was one of those campaigns I remember. We maybe spent $20,000 or so in 1 month or two, sponsoring different podcasts around the audiences that we wanted to target. That didn't work at all. Really? Mainly because we sell a design-oriented product, and you can't see it via a podcast. You can just hear from it, and it's brand awareness for sure, but that doesn't translate into conversion. So that was a missed. And one that we discovered recently is, well, by far our first successful campaign was Google AdWords. What I love about Google AdWords is that you can target people when the moment of intent is very close to conversion. So we found that targeting people that were looking for pitch decks with the keyword pitch deck worked pretty good. We would get a conversion to paid for maybe $70, $100, or $100, which was good, and we made that money back with our pricing. That was our first big breakthrough. What we did after that was translate that SEM into SEO. So we're like, okay, we know this keyword works. So now we're going to spend a lot of money, and we spent maybe $100K in the course of a year to rank for that keyword. Bunch of content, a bunch of guest posts and stuff like that.
For how many blogs?
No, 100K. 100K was our full annual budget.
For everything. Okay, wow. Okay.
Yeah. To rank for that keyword.
People or?
So people to write the content. We also discovered a nice car. Our website back then didn't rank for anything because we were just getting started. So we discovered that if we drove traffic to our articles, paid traffic, and that traffic read the articles and didn't bounce and then went on to read other articles, Google would correlate that to rankings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it wasn't Google ads. We were driving traffic to these articles via Facebook and other content promoting channels.
Oh, sorry, you just mean from other links. So it was actually organic traffic as opposed to paid traffic.
No, it was paid traffic. We were paying for those links. We were paying for those blog readers. But we went from a blog that had no readers to a blog that had thousands of readers per month, even though we had to pay for those visits. But after a couple of months, we noticed how our articles started ranking better, simply because Google was seeing that this blog was becoming relevant. People were reading it, the content was engaging, and they were linking to other stuff. People were linking to these articles and sharing them, and then Google Analytics, I'm assuming that Google knows because we're on Analytics, started giving us better rankings. And that's how we moved from third page of Google to third place in the front page.
Interesting. So SEO has been a really big thing for you.
Yeah, and that's still our biggest engine of growth. Our website gets maybe 350,000 organic hits per month, something like that, because of what we've invested there.
So I know a bit about the startup space, and one thing I found is that, peculiarly enough, quite a lot of startup-related words have really small search volume. So you'll find things like, I don't know, like cap tables or ESOP structures actually have a lot less search volume than you'd expect.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's it's quite hard. So you can't really do that much SEM actually. So you have to kind of do it a little bit more smartly.
Yeah. Pitch deck worked really great for us because it's this keyword that relates directly to startups, right? And it has a decent amount of searches. Maybe for pitch deck itself, just exact match, maybe 30,000 a month in the US. Less outside of the US because I believe that other countries call pitch decks differently, and we haven't figured out what that word is. Maybe it's presentation.
I don't know what it is either.
But we see that searches for pitch deck are very low in other countries, even English-speaking countries. But that's fine. Even with just the US audience, we started to build authority around that topic, and that worked rather well.
Yeah. And so how have you then thought about building your product around profitability? How does that kind of fit in? Have you found that you needed to change this product a lot did you find, going from a freemium to just a purely annual paid up product, you need to do a lot of technical changes?
No, not necessarily. So, during our company vision, we built our MVP, our beta product that could stand on its own. Then invested the next year and a half. Most of our round money and expenses were around growth. We wanted to build a bigger audience, prove the concept, understand if people were really willing to pay for this. So we really didn't scale the product team a lot during that time. From $1,000 of MRR up to $50,000 of MRR, our product team was still 2-3 people. Really rock stars, but yeah, a smallish team. It was only after that when we had more money to spend. Obviously, the product team is expensive. When we had more money to spend and we really understood what our customers wanted, that's when we scaled the team a little bit. And we've done that rather slowly. Our CTO is careful when we hire, and we tries to keep this operation under control. We have I think it's five full-time developers now on the team. Our biggest change now is that our biggest change since we launched the app is that we rebuilt the engine that designed the slides. So our whole point on Slidebean was slides that get designed automatically. But
Right.
before now, it was really not that automatic. It was nice and it was intuitive, but not really automatic. We've done that now. So we've spent the last 6 months or so building this engine powered by AI that designs the slides automatically. And that has been our biggest product investment since we started
Right.
the app in 2014.
How long did that take you to build?
Maybe 6 months. That's 6 months since we decided to dedicate to this, and since we halted most of our iterative or fixes or small features on the product, we halted all of that, so that we could just dedicate to this new engine, which was a strategic decision, right? To stop product improvements for 6 months
Sure, it's a big decision, right?
Yeah.
And what effect have you? This has been implemented, right?
We're going to launch it later this month.
Okay, so you haven't actually seen what the feedback is for it, or what the implication is on retention or something, right?
Yeah.
So how do you operate your company? So do you operate a remote structure? You seem to have more than one office, right?
Yeah. So I'm originally Costa Rican, and we've created a very nice balance that I think that many startups could do that, especially for foreign founders. Your dev team in the US is just so expensive that companies end up either in hire remote. If they're based in San Francisco, for example, and they can't afford to pay $150,000 for a developer, they have to hire them maybe outside of San Francisco, other places of the US, or just completely overseas, which is okay. I'm not a big fan of teams that are that remote, but I've seen it work, and they're convincing me. But I do believe that there's this intangible value in being all in the same office, and the stuff that works of when you're all together. So we had the advantage of being able to understand how the hiring system, and we had a network in Costa Rica. Obviously, my other co-founders are Costa Rican as well. So even though our company is a US company and we have an office in New York, and our marketing and sales teams are based in the US, we have our support and product teams based down in Costa Rica, where we can hire a developer for a fraction of what it costs in the US. And we have that in office, we're all together in the same place, sort of culture building.
So how do you think about allocating your time between the two offices?
I'm mostly based in Costa Rica now. We have 20 people down here, and we have our studio. So a lot of what we do is over here. But I'm still in New York once a month or once every other month at the most.
All right. So talk to me about culture. So when you decided to make the shift from freemium to a price model, how did you go about communicating with that team and getting them on board with it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a change for the team. When we had to do that, we had to let go a couple of people during that time. We sort of went all in with, okay, well, this is the route we're going to take. We're going to use our round money to grow like this, and this is how we're going to spend it. I've always been very transparent with the team in terms of how much revenue we're making. The reasoning behind our decisions to hire and to expand our budgets. But yeah, after 6 months full speed, we didn't get the results we wanted, so we had to downscale the team soon. Otherwise, we'd end up going out of money. And yeah, this was back in 2017, I think, when we had to do this scaling. And it was one of the toughest times for the company. One of the good decisions we did since then is promote one of our team members to sort of like a culture manager. We called him a vibe manager. Which is a person that that's not one of the founders, so it has a closer relationship with the rest of the team. Understands where we want to go in culture, and works sort of as a bridge between what we founders and management team are really occupied on, growing the company, to our team members that we obviously want to keep happy. So that decision was great, and we did it after that so that we could sort of bridge this communication.
So what is that person, your vibe manager, what do they actually do?
So it's a part-time position. Paula is our vibe manager, and she works half of her time goes to the marketing team on the video production stuff, and half her time goes on vibe management. So she does one-on-ones with the team once a month. It's different when you have a one-on-one with your boss and then a one-on-one with somebody whose job is to keep the office environment happy. She organizes a little bit of an office manager in the terms that she organizes kind of like our happy hours and the events that we do on a weekly basis. She has some KPIs, some happiness metrics that we started surveying our team. So it's an anonymous survey that they take on, how much pressure they have, whether they're comfortable with their job, stuff like that. She reports, comes up with ideas. Maybe sometimes, us founders come up with some policy that everybody hated and nobody has the gut to tell us, and then they'll funnel that through her. She'll decide if it's worth it or if they're just being whiny, and then let us know.
Okay, interesting. So what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned about getting off, or I guess your perspectives? When you started the company, you thought about, hey, we're going to get to millions of users, like, we're just going to be this rocket ship, it's going to be like the straight path, off we go, boom. And, now you're kind of, I wouldn't call it bootstrapping, but you're building like an actual real business with real actual numbers, right? You don't live in like la la land. So I just read this blog yesterday, and apparently Bird loses $380 per scooter, right? When they look at so apparently they only last a month because they weren't designed to actually be utilized a lot. So when you include all the costs of it, they apparently lose $380 per scooter. And it's like, hey guys, give me more money. Let's scale more of this, right? So we're losing each one, but we make it up in volume, right? Like, that's what I mean by like the crazy land, right? So, if you were starting this again, would you have fundamentally actually built this differently?
Looking back, I think that the wisest decision we ever made was this switch to premium. When we started this company, again, a presentation only product in 2014, we were too late to become a Prezi. Prezi was a freemium company, and they have 60 plus million signups as they report now. So they were the first web-based PowerPoint competitor, and they were able to consolidate that dominance because they started, 2007 or something. And that was the right time where you could raise money only on the users, just in the potential of this PowerPoint replacement, but not in 2014. And we know that now. We know that now because there's Google Slides, which is virtually free, and it's just a PowerPoint clone. There are a bunch of other startups that have done the same thing. And we've seen many of those companies go out of business. Companies that had powerful products. And one of the examples was Bunker, who launched, it's this French company, launched around the same time we did. We shared some of the same ideas around how presentations should be solved. And they went out of business because they went on the million of users bet. With the thinking that they could raise money to continue scaling this operation. By a set of luck and circumstances, we were forced to switch to premium early, and that really saved us. And we've outlived most of these guys. Again, we're not as big as Prezi, and I don't know if a presentation only product can become that big at this stage, especially if we don't raise any money to scale that fast. But what we do have is a product that that's used by thousands of people, that has continued to grow, that keeps a company going and generates at least 25 jobs, million plus dollars a year in revenue, which is something that I had never built. For me as an entrepreneur, I love what I do, and I still believe in the potential of the product. But this has been a fantastic school for other things to come. And that's what I want to believe. I don't expect to work in, even though this being a profitable company, there's no deadline on when we'll go out of business. Eventually, I of course would want to use all the experience that I have to just build something else, and hopefully this time something that can scale really fast.
It's interesting. So I'm mainly using Samcart on my site now, but I was originally using Gumroad. I got a bit annoyed with it, so I'd been like emailing customer care, and for some reason, I think his name's Sunil. I think I met him in Singapore. Was responding to the emails. I was like, why the fuck is the founder responding to? Because last time I'd really heard about it, he was selling this huge vision about like, oh my God, because he's really young as well when he started it. This guy's going to be the next blah, blah. And then I did some digging and I read a blog, and it turns out the guy moved to like Utah, and it's basically just like him and maybe one part-time person or something on this platform, because he found out that the business just wasn't fundamentally there, Right. So it's amazing like how you can start out selling this whole thing, and you can hustle a bit away by telling a story. But like ultimately you need to kind of come down to like the business has to work. It has to make sense. It has to be logical. Otherwise it just doesn't work, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go on.
Go ahead.
Tell me.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so talking about like not making sense. I mean, one thing you mentioned to me just before we started was that you got rid of customers, or you got rid of bad customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was tough. But another happy decision we made, because at some point we've iterated over so many price points and business models. At some point we tried to get, so what we want is a customer that needs to present often, that appreciates the time that Slidebean saves them, and that's willing to use our full stack of features from the design stuff to tracking presentations and stuff like that. But a lot of people need to make presentations, and a lot of people are trying to find PowerPoint alternatives today. So if you just target anybody who's looking for a PowerPoint alternative, they might come into the product, they might sign up, they might use it, and they might pay for it, but they'll churn away in 2 or 3 months. So we had double-digit churn, which was terrible. For us, we couldn't retain customers. We would still make a profit because our cost of acquisition is cheap, because it's mostly via SEO, so we don't have to pay a lot to bring those customers in. But it was just all this noise, all this work on, all these guys complaining because they don't have certain feature or having these feature requests, and it would just make the landscape very complicated to just decide on what to focus on as a product. What we've done since is, so we try to create a barrier for these customers by increasing our pricing. That's when we that's when we moved our base plan to $49 a month, which is super expensive, right? No, not comparable to any presentation product out there. And we thought that would create a filter and say, hey, people, only small businesses or people who are using this for business that need to present often will justify this $49 price. But that wasn't the case. People would still subscribe for that 1 month that they needed their valuable presentation, and then just immediately leave. So the barrier that we created that finally worked was annual. I don't know if it's a psychological thing. Maybe you're willing to pay annual because you're going to use the product through the year. Maybe it's a pricing barrier. It's $96 a month, so it's not really for occasional presenters. Whatever combination of psychology came up with that price, which we just guessed, we just pulled out of our sleeves, has been working really well, because these annual customers, 60% of them are renewing for the second year. So just that in itself creates fantastic.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe it's a variable that they create all these presentations through the year, and now they're hooked with the product and they don't want to leave. Maybe that's something that takes a few months rather than 1 month, if you have the possibility to churn away that fast. So that's been working. That's that business model has us in 10% month-over-month growth today, which is the best we've seen in a long time after struggling with the high churn. But it was just trial and error. And in the end, this whole profitability thing, what it gives you is time. If we hadn't switched or shrank our team to fit into this profitable model, we would have run out of time for experiments 2 years ago.
And that's ultimately what startup is, right? Like, a startup never actually dies. It's just the founders quit, and they quit because they run out of money. Startup takes time. And if living off the VC's teat, I just think is absolute madness. Fundamentally, like everyone should strive to build a profitable company, or a company that legitimately could be profitable if you wanted to, but they've got so much opportunity on the table. Like, you want to invest in marketing because what your payback times are, etc. And obviously with SaaS, you've got the front load of cost. But
one constant conversation that we still have our investors from our original round. And we are at a crossroads now where we raised money on a convertible note, and obviously these guys want the business to grow and they want us to raise a Series A so they can convert their convertible notes. But my answer to them is, or has been for the past few months, has been, guys, we haven't found a reason to raise more money. Like, we haven't found a route that would take us from million plus ARR to $10 million ARR. We might have found it with some of the new stuff that we're launching, but we're not sure. And until we're sure, we're not going to raise money. But we're in this position, and then we also have the possibility of, hey guys, okay, so if you feel, if you have pressure to get this money back, the money that you invested, or if you don't believe that the business is going to grow anymore, we are at a position where we can pay you back. We can pay back those notes, and we'll be fine. It's not an option that anybody wants, because we'll have to downscale a little bit more and so on. But we have that comfort, and for us as founders, it creates, it removes a lot of the pressure. One conversation I had with one of my co-founders the other day was, man, if we raise more money now, and we are not sure if we can scale this company to the point that we're going to sell, all we're going to earn is just more pressure from people that has more money at stake. And we don't need that unless we found that route. This new AI product that we're launching, we're investing heavily in the launch, and it's been a 6-month R&D project. So that might be the route, and we might start seeing drastically higher conversion rates. And if that works and we see a route to the next stage, then we'll do it. But we are at a comfortable position where raising money is a choice, not a necessity.
Okay, so I need to jump on a client call, running a little bit late, but why don't you, just the people who are listening or watching, give a quick pitch of what they should do if they want to check out Slidebean?
You should check out slidebean.com. If you're not convinced, you should look at our YouTube channel, which is where we're putting a lot of content. So a lot of what we've discussed on our route to profitability and the marketing stunts that we've pulled off that worked. We're very transparent about that content. So we've started to publish that heavily on YouTube and on our blog. So you should check that out, and you'll get a chance to glimpse at the product before actually signing up. Aside from that, Alexander, thanks a lot for having me, and thanks a lot for listening, everybody.
Hey, cool. Thanks a lot, buddy. I got to bounce. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.